The cleaning lady fell at the party and everyone laughed. Until a young billionaire did something unbelievable. Lena Price adjusted the simple grey uniform with the cleaning company's logo and faced her reflection in the staff bathroom mirror. Her blonde hair pulled back in a severe bun, and her tired blue eyes stared back at her. Tonight was important, an extra cleaning job after a gala that would pay for Lily's school supplies for the next semester. "You can do this," she murmured to herself. "It's just one night." The ballroom of the Grand Royale Hotel shimmered with golden lights. Huge crystals hung from the ceiling in majestic chandeliers, reflecting on tables decorated with floral arrangements that cost more than her monthly rent. Lena had arrived early to receive instructions and was now waiting in a discreet corner. Her real work would begin when the guests left, but the manager had asked a few cleaners to be on standby for any emergencies during the event. Hale Enterprises was celebrating its 50th anniversary with an extravagant party. Executives in flawless tuxedos and women in designer gowns moved through the room as if walking on clouds. Lena, in her grey uniform, was practically invisible to them, exactly as it should be. "Stay in the corners and only come out if you're called," the event manager instructed. "You are not here." Lena nodded and moved to her discreet post, watching the party from a distance. She thought of Lily, her 5-year-old, who was with a neighbor tonight. She pictured the blonde curls and the gapped tooth smile. Her first baby tooth had fallen out last week. The buzz grew louder when Raymond Cole, CEO of Hale Enterprises, took the stage for his speech. Tall, imposing, with perfectly styled grey hair, he thanked everyone for their presence in a voice that commanded the room. Beside him, almost hidden in the shadows, was a young man Lena assumed was his stepson, the heir the newspapers mentioned. Jasper Hale seemed out of place even in a suit that probably cost more than a car. While Raymond talked about numbers and achievements, the young man watched the crowd with distant eyes. For a moment, Lena thought she saw the same weariness in him that she felt. When the speech ended, Lena noticed a spilled glass of wine near one of the side tables. Following instructions to quickly clean up any accidents, she grabbed her cloth and moved discreetly among the guests. That's when it all happened. A waiter rushed past behind her with a full tray. Lena took a step to the side without realizing it, and their bodies collided. Time seemed to slow as the glasses lifted from the tray in slow motion, the golden liquid forming shimmering arcs in the air before shattering on the marble floor with a crystalline crash. The silence was immediate and oppressive. Lena, now kneeling on the wet floor trying to pick up the shards, felt all eyes on her. Her face burned with shame as she heard the first snickers. "Typical of the cleaning staff," a woman nearby muttered. "How much do you think that champagne is worth?" "More than her salary, for sure," a man said, loud enough for everyone to hear. The laughter grew, cruel and devoid of any compassion. Lena kept her eyes down, her hands trembling as she tried to gather the larger pieces of glass. "I'm so clumsy," she muttered to herself, but her voice came out louder than she intended, provoking more laughter. That's when a pair of polished black shoes stopped in front of her. Lena didn't look up immediately, expecting to be reprimanded by the manager. Instead, a hand appeared in her field of vision, a hand extended to help her. "Leave that for later," a soft, masculine voice said. Confused, Lena finally looked up. Jasper Hale, the young heir, was kneeling beside her, completely ignoring the champagne staining the hem of his expensive pants. "But I need to clean this up, sir," she replied, feeling small under the perplexed gazes of the guests. "The others can take care of it," he replied, and his smile had no trace of mockery. With gentle firmness, he helped her to her feet, as other cleaning staff were already approaching with cloths and supplies. The entire ballroom watched the unusual scene. Raymond Cole, from across the room, had a look of clear disapproval. Lena could feel the weight of that gaze and knew she would probably lose her extra job because of the incident. "Would you dance with me?" Jasper's question came so unexpectedly that Lena thought she had misheard. He stood before her, hand outstretched, in an impossible invitation. "What?" she asked, certain she was misunderstanding. "I asked if you would like to dance," he repeated, a little louder, so that everyone around could hear. His eyes held a quiet determination, as if he were doing the most natural thing in the world. A murmur rippled through the ballroom like a wave. Lena felt her face burn even hotter. "I can't, sir." "I'm working," she replied, almost in a whisper. "I understand," he responded with a nod, but he didn't step away immediately. "What's your name?" Lena Price." "A pleasure to meet you, Lena Price. I'm Jasper Hale." As if she didn't know. As if everyone in that ballroom didn't know who he was. A supervisor from the cleaning crew approached nervously, and Jasper finally took a step back, allowing the work to continue. But before he walked away completely, he added, "Accidents happen to all of us, Lena. Don't let them define you." She nodded, still stunned, as he returned to the crowd that now watched him with renewed curiosity. The event manager soon appeared, sending Lena to the back while the party continued. In the small staff break room, Lena sat alone, her hands still trembling. She didn't know if she had just lost her extra job or if she had been saved by an inexplicable act of kindness. For the rest of the night, she worked in the service areas, away from the guests' eyes. When the party finally ended, she returned to the main ballroom for the heavy-duty cleaning, scrubbing floors and collecting the trash left behind by elegance. But she couldn't forget that moment, the outstretched hand, the impossible invitation, the kindness in the eyes of someone who had no reason to be kind to her. When she finally got home, it was past 3 in the morning. Her neighbor, Mrs. Roberts, was asleep on the couch with the TV on low volume. Lily was curled up in her little bed, hugging the worn-out stuffed rabbit she hadn't let go of since she was 3. Lena kissed her daughter's forehead, watching the blonde curls spread across the pillow. She sat on the edge of the bed, still in her cleaning uniform. "Mommy," Lily murmured, half-conscious. "Yes, my love. I'm here. Go back to sleep." As Lily drifted back to sleep, Lena remained seated there, replaying the night's events. That gesture, a simple invitation to dance that she hadn't even accepted, had planted something inside her, a feeling she couldn't name. Across town, in his silent penthouse, Jasper Hale was also awake, watching the city lights from the panoramic window. For the first time in a long time, he felt restless. The image of that woman, the frightened look, the dignity even in humiliation, wouldn't leave his mind. He didn't understand why he had done it. He just knew he couldn't stand by and watch someone be treated that way. And now something had changed within him too. 3 days had passed since the Hale Enterprises party, but Jasper couldn't get the image of the blonde cleaning lady kneeling on the floor out of his head. Something about that encounter disturbed him in a way he couldn't explain. In his 30 years, he had never felt such restlessness. Sitting in his panoramic office on the 40th floor, he ignored the dozens of unread emails on his screen. The feeling of emptiness that usually accompanied him seemed even deeper. Outside, the grey autumn sky perfectly reflected his state of mind. Without much thought, he called the human resources department of the company that had hired the cleaning crew for the event. "I need the contact information for an employee who worked at the anniversary party," he said, using his most professional tone. "It's for a social project we're developing." "Any specific employee, Mr. Hale?" asked the assistant on the other end of the line. "Lena. I think her last name is Price." Half an hour later, he had a basic file in his hands. Lena Price, 28 years old, single mother, a cleaner at Westfield Academy during the day, and a freelancer for events at night. She lived in the eastern suburbs, a modest neighborhood where houses were packed tightly together. She had a young daughter who attended the same school where she worked. Jasper researched Westfield Academy. It was a traditional private school with a small scholarship program for underprivileged children, probably how Lena's daughter was able to study there. The website mentioned the importance of its on-social commitment, but the photos mainly showed children from wealthy families in impeccable uniforms. An idea began to form. That same afternoon, he cancelled 2 important meetings and ignored Raymond's calls. Something more urgent was calling to him, though he couldn't explain exactly what. The next day, Jasper parked his Audi in front of Westfield Academy. He had swapped his usual suit for dark pants and a discreet grey sweater. The sky threatened rain, but a few rays of sun stubbornly broke through the clouds, illuminating the imposing facade of the century-old institution. The school secretary, a middle-aged woman with glasses hanging from a silver chain, practically jumped out of her chair when he mentioned his name. "Mr. Hale, what an unexpected honor. The principal will want to see you personally." "Actually," Jasper smiled politely, "I'd like to learn about the school's social projects without much fuss. We're considering establishing community partnerships." Within minutes, he was being led through the polished corridors of the institution. Children in navy blue uniforms ran across the courtyard during recess. A few teachers watched him with curiosity. The school had the characteristic smell of old books, floor wax, and that indefinable aroma of accumulated knowledge. "Our renovated library," the secretary gestured to a large room. "And here, the science lab that received new equipment last year." Jasper nodded politely, but his eyes scanned every hallway, every person who passed. He studied the bulletin boards with children's artwork, the gleaming trophies in display cases, the way some children seemed perfectly at home, while others, probably scholarship students, maintained a more cautious posture. And then, as they turned a corner near the water fountains, he saw her. Lena was pushing a cart with cleaning supplies, the same severe bun holding back her blonde hair. She wore a simple blue uniform with the school's name embroidered on the pocket. She looked up at the exact moment he passed, and the recognition was instant. The shock in her blue eyes was visible, like a sudden wave in calm waters. Jasper dismissed the secretary with a vague excuse and approached her. "Hello, Lena." She stood motionless, her hands gripping the handle of the cart so tightly that her knuckles turned white. "Mr. Hale, what are you doing here?" "Jasper, please, and I'm getting to know the school." Lena looked around, clearly uncomfortable with the situation. A few other cleaning staff members watched from a distance, curious. "You came all the way here?" she asked in a low voice, a mix of confusion and suspicion in her tone. "We're considering a scholarship project," he improvised, keeping his voice casual. But I confess, I was curious to know how you were after that night." "I'm fine," she replied, adjusting her uniform in a nervous gesture. "I managed to keep the freelance job, if that's what you want to know." A slight furrow appeared between her eyebrows, as if she were trying to understand what was really behind his unexpected visit. At that moment, a little blonde girl with lively blue eyes, wearing the same uniform as the other children, ran down the hall and stopped abruptly when she saw Lena. Her golden hair was in two lopsided braids, as if she had tried to do them herself. "Mommy, look what I drew today." Lena's expression softened instantly, though her eyes showed a hint of worry at seeing her daughter approach just as she was talking to Jasper. "Lily, sweetie, Mommy's working." The little girl was holding a colorful drawing made with crayons, but upon noticing Jasper, she suddenly became shy, hiding partially behind her mother. Her curious eyes, however, examined the stranger from head to toe. "You're very tall," she finally commented, making Jasper smile. "Lily," Lena gently chided. "It's okay," Jasper said, crouching down to her level. "You're right, I am tall, and that's a very beautiful drawing." Lily smiled, revealing the gap in the front of her teeth. "Hey, it's our house, with Mommy and me, and Mr. Bunny." She pointed to the figures on the paper. "Mr. Bunny is my friend who lives in my bed. He must be a very lucky bunny," Jasper commented, charmed by the child's spontaneity. A bell rang, announcing the end of recess. The hallway quickly filled with children returning to their classrooms. "So I have to go back to class," Lily said, handing the drawing to her mother. "Bye, tall man." She ran to join her classmates, her braids bouncing as she went. Jasper watched her go, surprised by the warm feeling that brief encounter had sparked. When the girl disappeared among the other children, Lena seemed to regain her composure. "I need to get back to work, Mr. Hale." "Jasper," he corrected again. "And I'd really like to talk to you more." He hesitated for a moment. "Can I visit you after work? I promise I won't take up much of your time." Lena looked at him cautiously. "Why?" It was a fair question, one for which he didn't have a clear answer. "Because I want to get to know the person who made me think differently about a lot of things," he answered with sincerity. She seemed to weigh his words, as if searching for any sign of falsehood. Finally, she took a small notepad from her uniform pocket and wrote something down. "I get off at 5. This is my address." The small townhouse where Lena lived was on a quiet street, with modest but well-kept houses. Pots with simple plants decorated some windows, children's bicycles rested on porches, and an occasional used car was parked in front of the homes. Jasper felt out of place parking his imported car there. He checked the address twice before knocking on the faded green door. Lena answered, still with an air of surprise, as if she didn't really believe he would come. She was wearing simple jeans and a light-colored blouse, her hair loose in waves over her shoulders, a completely different image from the cleaner with the severe bun. "You really came," she commented, making room for him to enter. The house was small but welcoming. The furniture was simple and worn, but clean and organized. Framed photographs showed Lily at different ages, a bookshelf with a few books, some toys tidied in a corner of the living room, a sofa with a colorful quilt carefully folded over the arm. A healthy green plant in the window, catching the last rays of the afternoon sun. "Mommy, he really came," Lily exclaimed, coming out of the kitchen with a cookie in her hand. She was now wearing a light blue dress and colorful socks. "Can I show the tall man my books?" "It's Jasper, sweetie," Lena corrected gently. "And only if he wants to. I'd love to see your books," Jasper replied, genuinely interested. The little girl took his hand without hesitation, pulling him to the corner of the room where a small bookshelf stood. Her small hand was warm and confident in his creating a strange sensation in his chest. As Lily ran to get her small collection, Lena offered, "Would you like some coffee? We don't have anything fancy, but—" "Coffee would be perfect," he replied quickly. In the small kitchen, Jasper watched Lena prepare coffee in a simple coffee maker. Her movements were efficient and graceful, even in such a mundane task. She seemed more relaxed here than at the school, though she still maintained a cautious distance. "Sugar?" she asked, placing the cup on the formica table. "No, thank you." Lily returned carrying a stack of well-used children's books, some with dog-eared corners and marks of constant use. "So this is my favorite," she said, showing him a book about a princess who built rockets. "The princess is smart like Mommy." "Your mum does seem very smart," Jasper agreed, looking at Lena, who blushed slightly. For the next hour, Jasper found himself in one of the most honest conversations of his life. Lily showed him each of her books, telling the stories in her own way, a mix of the original plot and her own inventions that made Lena smile with pride. The sun set slowly, and the cozy lights of the small living room created an atmosphere of intimacy he had never experienced in his huge, impersonal mansion. When Lily went to play in the small backyard, Lena talked about her job at the school, the difficulties of raising a daughter alone, the small dreams she nurtured. "I want Lily to have chances I didn't have," she said, tracing the rim of her cup with her finger. "That's why I work so hard. The scholarship is a blessing, but the supplies, uniforms, extra activities, it all costs money." "You're an amazing mother," Jasper commented, surprised by his own sincerity. Lena watched him for a moment, as if assessing his honesty. "And you, do you have family?" "Technically, my father died when I was 12. My mother married Raymond 2 years later. He always made it clear that I was just the package that came with her. I'm sorry. I'm used to it," he shrugged, but something in his tone suggested otherwise. As the sky began to darken, Jasper realized he had spent hours there, talking about things he never shared with anyone. He told her about the pressure of working at the company, the endless expectations, the fake smiles at corporate dinners. "I've never talked so much about myself," he commented, surprised. "Sometimes it's easier to talk to strangers," Lena replied. "You don't feel like a stranger anymore." The following week, Jasper returned, and then the next. Each visit brought a new book for Lily, stories about female scientists, explorers, artists. The girl greeted him with spontaneous hugs that caught him off guard, but soon became his favorite part of the day. On a rainy Thursday afternoon, while Lily was napping, Jasper and Lena talked on the small covered porch, watching the rain fall on the modest garden. Drops formed little rivers on the plant leaves, and the world seemed slower, gentler under that curtain of water. "Raymond is furious with me," Jasper commented, swirling his coffee cup between his hands. "He says I'm neglecting my responsibilities." "Are you?" Lena asked directly. "Probably," he smiled. "But for the first time, I don't care what he thinks. Or what anyone thinks." "What changed?" Jasper looked at her, taking in her calm presence, the honesty in her clear eyes. Her blonde hair tied in a casual ponytail, her hands with small marks of hard work, her smile that hid nothing. "With you, I can talk. And be heard," he finally answered. "Not as the Hale heir or Raymond's stepson or any other role I have to play. Just me." Lena smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes. "You're just a man, and here, no one demands anything from you." The simplicity of that truth hit him hard. His entire life, there had always been expectations, demands, impossible standards. Here in this small house with a single mother and her 5-year-old daughter, he could simply exist. On the coffee table, Jasper's phone buzzed with another urgent message from the office. He ignored it, choosing instead to watch a small spider weaving its web in the corner of the window. Lily would wake up soon, and he had promised to help her build a pillow fort. Raymond could wait. For the first time in years, Jasper Hale breathed without the familiar weight on his shoulders, and he knew with absolute certainty that he would be back the next day, and the one after that, and every day he could. The world outside, with its mansions and imported cars, its multi-million-dollar contracts and gala dinners, seemed increasingly distant and unimportant. Real life, he discovered, happened over simple cups of coffee and honest conversations with someone who wanted nothing from him but his authentic presence. Jasper's visits to Lena's small house had become part of their routine. 2, sometimes 3 times a week, his imported car would park discreetly on the modest street. The neighbors no longer stared with as much curiosity, and Lily eagerly awaited him on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons, when he always brought a new book or a small educational toy. On a rainy afternoon, while Lily was showing him her new drawing, Jasper noticed the buckets and pans strategically placed around the living room to catch the water dripping from the ceiling. "It only happens during heavy rain," Lena explained, noticing his gaze. "In the summer, it's fine." He nodded without commenting, but his eyes registered the stains on the ceiling, the window that didn't close completely, the refrigerator that made a strange noise, small signs he hadn't noticed before. That night, alone in his luxurious apartment, Jasper couldn't stop thinking about the leaks. The week before, he had noticed Lena carefully checking the price tags on everything at the supermarket, and how she delicately hid the overdue bill that had arrived in the mail. The next day, he arrived at Lena's house earlier than usual, knowing she would be at work and only Lily would be home with Mrs. Roberts, the elderly neighbor who looked after the girl after school. "Mr. Jasper," Lily exclaimed as she opened the door, her blue eyes shining with excitement. "Mommy's not here." "I know, kiddo." "I came a little early to surprise you." He bent down to her level. "Can I come in and talk to Mrs. Roberts?" The elderly woman, who was knitting on the sofa, greeted him with a knowing smile. "So, you're the young man who's been brightening our Lily's days?" "I hope so," he replied, sitting at the kitchen table. "Actually, I came to ask for your help with something important." Half an hour later, Jasper had all the information he needed: the account numbers for the overdue bills, the school books Lily needed for the next semester, the name of the company that did roof repairs. Mrs. Roberts, with her sharp intuition, didn't ask any unnecessary questions. "Lena is proud," was her only comment. "She has her reasons." "I know," he replied simply. In the following weeks, Jasper continued his regular visits, but he also made some discreet moves. A crew showed up to fix the roof while Lena was at work, sent by the school administration as part of the Employee Assistance Program, according to the official letter she received. Lily's school books arrived as part of an anonymous donation for scholarship students, small changes that wouldn't raise suspicion. On a Thursday evening, however, everything changed. Jasper arrived for the dinner Lena had prepared, something that had become a recent habit, and found her standing in the living room, holding 2 opened envelopes. "What is this?" she asked without preamble as soon as he walked in. Jasper realized immediately they were the electricity and gas bills, both stamped paid. "Looks like they're paid bills," he answered calmly. "Don't play dumb." Lena's voice was controlled, but her eyes revealed a mix of emotions. First the roof, then Lily's books, now this. "Do you think I didn't notice?" Lily appeared at the kitchen doorway, sensing the tension in the air. Lena immediately softened her expression. "Honey, can you go play in your room for a little bit? I need to talk to Jasper." The girl nodded and left, casting a worried look at the two of them. When they were alone, Lena placed the envelopes on the table. "I don't want charity," she said finally, her words firm but not aggressive. "Especially from you." "What does that mean?" "It means I don't want you coming here out of pity or because you feel obligated." She took a deep breath. "I've worked hard my whole life to give Lily what she needs. Yes, it's hard sometimes, but we manage." Jasper approached slowly, keeping his voice low. "It never crossed my mind that this was charity, Lena." "Then what is it?" "It's not charity, it's care." The simplicity of that answer caught Lena by surprise. She stared at him, trying to find any sign of condescension, but only saw sincerity in his eyes. "Do you take care of everyone around you?" he continued. "Lily, the students at your school, even me, by offering a place where I can be myself. Why is it so hard to let someone take care of you too?" Lena looked away, visibly uncomfortable with the question. "Because I'm afraid," she finally admitted. "Of what?" "Of getting used to it, of starting to depend on it." "On you." She sat down, looking suddenly tired. "And then, when you move on with your life, and we'll be back to facing everything alone." Jasper sat beside her, leaving a respectful space between them. "I understand your fear," he said, "but I'm not doing this to create dependency. I'm doing it because I care about you both." "Why?" she asked, genuinely confused. "We're so different. Our worlds are complete opposites." "Maybe that's why," he smiled slightly. "In my world, people only get close when they want something in return. You and Lily are the first people in a long time who have accepted me for who I am." From Lily's room came the sound of her laughter as she played, oblivious to the serious conversation in the living room. The sound brought an involuntary smile to both their lips. "She adores you," Lena commented. "And I adore you both," he replied simply. "Please, don't see my help as an affront to your independence. See it as a friend sharing what he has." Lena thought for a moment, her initial resistance slowly dissolving. "Sasa, and if I say I want to pay it all back eventually, I'll say that I respect your decision, but that there's no rush at all." She nodded slowly, a silent agreement forming between them. "The dinner's getting cold," she said finally, standing up. Lily made the pasta sauce. "It's her new recipe. I can't wait to try it," Jasper smiled, relieved by the change of subject. As they headed to the kitchen, he felt Lena lightly touch his arm. "Thank you," she murmured. "Not for the money, for the respect." Jasper just nodded, understanding the weight of those words. What had started as a curiosity, an inexplicable impulse after the party, had turned into something much deeper. It wasn't just about helping financially, it was about creating bonds, forming a connection that neither of them had planned, but that now felt as natural as breathing. Later, as the three of them played a board game in the living room, with Lily laughing at her own moves and Lena finally relaxed, Jasper knew he had found something his money could never buy: a place to belong. Raymond Cole's office occupied the highest floor of the Hale Enterprises building, an imposing room with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the city. On the main wall, a series of portraits showed 3 generations of the family: grandfather and father and son, all with the same determined gaze, the same rigid posture. Jasper walked through the door at exactly 9 in the morning, as requested. The urgent and private meeting request from his father was unusual, especially since Raymond usually preferred to communicate through his team of assistants. "Good morning, Father," Jasper greeted, closing the door behind him. Raymond didn't answer immediately. He stood with his back to him, observing the city 30 floors below. his hands clasped behind his back. When he finally turned, his face held its usual calculated expression, neither anger nor disappointment, just a cold, meticulous control. "Sit down," he ordered, gesturing to the chair in front of his desk. Jasper obeyed, noticing the organized papers in front of him. One detail caught his attention, a green folder with the Westfield Academy logo. "You've been missing important meetings," Raymond began, sitting in his leather armchair. "Canceling appointments at the last minute, leaving calls unanswered." "I've been fulfilling all my obligations," Jasper replied calmly. Raymond raised an eyebrow, the only visible sign of his growing irritation. "Have you? The Peterson contract is late. The Asian branch project has needed your signature for a week, and the dinner with the Russian investors, which you simply didn't show up for. I sent Mark in my place. He knows the project better than I do." "It's not about the project." Raymond tapped the desk lightly with his fingers. "It's about presence, commitment, showing who the future of this company is." A heavy silence filled the room. Jasper knew that wasn't the real issue. His father would never call him in just to discuss missed appointments. There was something more. As if confirming his thoughts, Raymond opened the green folder on the desk. "You've been visiting Westfield Academy frequently," he said, in a tone that wasn't a question. "At first, I thought it was a genuine interest in social projects. It would be good publicity for the company." Jasper kept his expression neutral, but felt a knot in his stomach, so that was it. "Until I found out your true interest is much more specific." Raymond slid a photograph across the desk, Jasper entering Lena's house, carrying a bundle of books. "A cleaning lady, Jasper, really?" The contempt in his voice was palpable, like acid poured over the words. "Her name is Lena," Jasper replied, keeping his voice calm, though he could feel his pulse quicken. "And she's an incredible person." Raymond let out a short, humorless laugh. "Incredible. A woman who cleans toilets for a living. A single mother from some forgotten suburb." Jasper felt his blood boil, but he maintained his composure. "Don't talk about her like that. Do you have any idea what you're doing?" Raymond leaned forward, his eyes fixed on his sons. "Twice 3 generations built this company, this name. 3 generations sacrificed so you could be where you are. And you throw it all away to play philanthropist with a cleaning lady and her bastard daughter." "Don't use that word," Jasper warned, his voice low and restrained. Raymond ignored the warning. "The press is already sniffing around. Today it's just rumors. Tomorrow it will be headlines. Billionaire heir abandons responsibilities for romance with a maid. Is that what you want?" "It's not a romance." "Oh, that makes it so much better." Raymond laughed dryly. "So you're just wasting your time, money and reputation, without even the benefit of taking her to bed." "Brilliant!" Jasper clenched his fists, trying to contain his growing anger. "You are lowering yourself," Raymond continued, each word dripping with contempt. "You will tarnish our family name." The words hung in the air like toxic smoke. In the past, Jasper would have tried to explain, to justify his actions, to seek approval. It had always been like that, his whole life a constant attempt to please a man who was never satisfied. But this time, something was different. Jasper just looked at his father, truly looked, and for the first time, he saw not the powerful Raymond Cole, but just a man trapped in his own limited conceptions of value and success. A man who measured human relationships by their potential for profit, and he felt a strange peace. "I have nothing to say," he finally replied. Raymond frowned, clearly surprised by the lack of justification. "I'm serious, Jasper. This needs to end. Today, I suggest you cut ties with this woman and resume your responsibilities. Otherwise, I will have to take more drastic measures." "What kind of measures?" "The kind you won't like. Believe me, I have the resources to ensure this distraction disappears from your life." It wasn't an empty threat, and they both knew it. Raymond Cole had enough power to destroy lives with a single phone call. Jasper felt a chill run down his spine. Not out of fear of losing his position, his comfort, his inheritance, but for what those words implied for Lena and Lily. "You wouldn't do that," he said. though he knew, yes, he would. "Don't test me, son," Raymond replied, leaning back in his chair. "I'm trying to protect you. One day you'll understand." Jasper stood up slowly. "May I go now? Think about what I said. Make the right decision." Jasper walked to the door, but before leaving, he turned one last time. "You know what the difference is between her house and this place, Father. There, no one expects me to be something I'm not." With that, he left, closing the door softly behind him. In the empty hallway, he leaned against the wall and took a deep breath. His father's words still echoed in his mind, but not in the way Raymond had hoped. Instead of insecurity, Jasper felt a clarity he had never experienced before. For the first time in his life, he hadn't tried to defend himself, explain himself, or convince his father. He had simply listened, felt the impact of those cruel words, and chosen his own path. In his pocket, his phone vibrated. A message from Lily, sent from Lena's phone. A scanned drawing of 3 stick figures holding hands under a smiling sun. "For the tall man," the caption read in the shaky handwriting of a 5-year-old. Jasper smiled, putting the phone away. Raymond was wrong. He wasn't lowering himself. For the first time in his life, he was finally rising up. Autumn was coming to an end, bringing with it the first frosts. The trees had lost almost all their leaves, and the sky dawned grey that Thursday. Lena woke up earlier than usual, feeling a strange premonition. The silence in the small house felt different. "Lily, time to get up," she called, knocking gently on her daughter's door. There was no answer. Lena entered and found the girl bundled in her blankets, her blonde curls stuck to her damp forehead. "Mommy, I'm cold," Lily murmured, her voice hoarse. One touch was all it took for Lena to realize something was wrong. Her daughter's skin was burning under her fingers. "So it hurts here," Lily pointed to her throat, before being interrupted by a dry, persistent cough that shook her small body. Lena grabbed the thermometer from the bathroom drawer, 102.5 degrees. Her heart raced. Lily rarely got sick, and never with such a high fever. "We're staying home today, sweetie," she said, trying to keep her voice calm as a knot formed in her stomach. She called the school to say she wouldn't be working, and the local clinic's secretary, but the doctor at the community health center would only see emergencies the next day. She gave Lily a fever reducer and applied cool compresses, remembering the pediatrician's advice from their last visit months ago. For a few hours, the fever seemed to break. Lily slept a little, but woke up coughing even more, her little face red from the effort. Lena noticed with growing concern that her daughter's breathing seemed more difficult, with a subtle wheeze on each inhale. "It hurts a lot, Mommy," she whimpered, her blue eyes welling with tears. Lena held her daughter in her arms, feeling completely helpless. The fever reducer seemed to have worn off, and her temperature was rising again. Worse, Lily was now struggling to breathe between coughing fits. "We need to go to the hospital," Lena decided, trying to control her rising panic. She reached for her phone to call a cab, but then remembered she had used her last savings to pay for the refrigerator repair last week. Her credit card was maxed out, and her paycheck wouldn't come for another 3 days. In desperation, she called Mrs. Roberts, who promised to arrive in 15 minutes to help. While she waited, she tried to get Lily to drink some water, but the girl could barely swallow. The doorbell rang and Lena rushed to answer, expecting to find her elderly neighbor. Instead, she was face to face with Jasper, holding a bag of children's books. "I came early today and—" He stopped when he saw Lena's expression. What happened? "It's Lily," she answered, her voice trembling. "She has a very high fever, a cough. I can't get her to feel better." Jasper didn't hesitate. He came in quickly, following Lena to the room where Lily was curled up in her blankets, shivering despite the heat radiating from her small body. "Hi, Princess," he said softly, kneeling beside the bed. Lily opened her eyes, recognizing his voice. "Tall man," she murmured, before being seized by another coughing fit that left her breathless. Jasper touched her forehead and looked at Lena. "How long has she been like this?" "Since early this morning. The fever won't go down, and the cough is getting worse. I need to take her to the hospital, but—" She trailed off, biting her lip. "Get what you need," Jasper said, already pulling his phone from his pocket. "I'm taking you both right now." While Lena gathered documents and a change of clothes, she heard Jasper make a quick call, mentioning a doctor's name and asking him to be available for an emergency. Within minutes, they were in the car, with Lily wrapped in a blanket in her mother's arms in the back seat. Instead of heading to the public hospital, Jasper drove to a private clinic in an upscale neighborhood of the city. Lena had never set foot in there. It was the kind of place where a single consultation cost half her monthly salary. "Jasper, I can't—" "Don't worry about that now," he interrupted gently, parking at the clinic's entrance. "What's important is Lily." A team was already waiting for them at the reception. A nurse took Lily from Lena's arms and rushed her inside, followed by a middle-aged doctor who greeted Jasper by name. The next few hours passed in a blur. Tests, X-rays, blood draws. Lena stayed by her daughter's side the entire time, holding her small hand as the professionals worked with quiet efficiency. Jasper stayed in the waiting room, occasionally bringing water or coffee for Lena, but never interfering, respecting the intimate space between mother and daughter. "Pneumonia," the doctor finally informed them. "Not too severe yet, but we need to start treatment immediately. I recommend admission for at least tonight to monitor her response to the antibiotics and keep the fever under control." Lena nodded, unable to speak. Pneumonia. The word echoed in her mind like a nightmare. She remembered a colleague's daughter who had gotten sick the previous winter. 2 weeks in the hospital, a monstrous bill, and the family still struggling with the debt months later. Jasper appeared by her side, as if he had sensed her anguish. "Dr. Norris is the best pediatric pulmonologist in the city," he said quietly. "Lily is in good hands. And I've already arranged for a private room for her." "Jasper, I can't accept this. The cost—" "Please," he interrupted, his eyes fixed on hers. "Let me do this." Something in the intensity of his gaze made Lena swallow the rest of her protest. She nodded slightly, turning her attention back to Lily, who was now receiving her first dose of antibiotics through an IV line. It was already night when the girl was moved to a cozy room, with walls painted in soft tones and a small teddy bear waiting on the bed. The fever had subsided a bit, and the oxygen mask was helping her breathe. Lena sat in the armchair next to the bed, determined not to leave her daughter for a second. "You need to rest too," Jasper commented, offering her a sandwich he had gotten from the hospital cafeteria. "I can't," she replied, accepting only the cup of hot tea. "What if she needs me?" "Then I'll be here to call you," he assured her, pulling a chair to the other side of the bed. "I'm not going anywhere." Lena looked at him, surprised. "You don't have to spend the night here. You've already done more than enough." Jasper smiled slightly. "I'm not doing this out of obligation, Lena." The hours of the night passed slowly. Lily slept, the effect of the medication finally giving her some rest. The monitors beeped steadily, a reminder of the situation's gravity, but also of her current stability. Nurses came in silently to check her vital signs, adjust the IV, and jot down measurements on a clipboard. At some point, Lena realized Jasper had left and returned with an extra blanket for her. He draped it over her shoulders with a care that made her swallow hard. "You should try to get some sleep," he suggested, noticing the dark circles under her eyes. Lena shook her head, but her eyes were heavy. The exhaustion from the previous sleepless night, combined with the emotional drain of the day, was starting to take its toll. "Why don't you rest your head for a few minutes?" Jasper insisted gently. "I promise I'll keep an eye on her." Reluctantly, Lena leaned back in the armchair, pulling the blanket up to her chin. "Wake me if she makes any noise, anything at all." "I promise," he replied, settling into the uncomfortable chair on the other side of the bed. Lena didn't intend to sleep, just to rest her eyes for a moment, but the exhaustion was stronger. Before completely giving in, she watched Jasper through half-closed eyelids, his expensive suit completely wrinkled, his hair disheveled after hours at the hospital, his attentive expression as he watched Lily sleep. The scene was etched in her memory before sleep overcame her. The man who could be anywhere in the world at that moment, but chose to be there, in a hard, cold chair, watching over a child he had only known for a few weeks. Lena woke with a start, not knowing how long she had slept. The room was dim, lit only by the soft glow of the lamp and the monitors. Lily was still sleeping peacefully, her breathing more regular. Jasper remained in the same position, vigilant. "How long?" Lena asked, straightening up in the armchair. "Almost 3 hours," he answered quietly. The nurse came twice. "Her fever is down to 100.4 degrees Celsius, and her oxygen saturation has improved." Lena got up, adjusted Lily's blanket, and touched her forehead. Indeed, it was less hot. "Thank you for staying awake," she said, returning to the armchair. "You must be exhausted." Jasper shrugged. "I'm fine." Lena observed the man who had entered her life so unexpectedly. The billionaire heir who was now spending the night in a hard, cold chair just to offer comfort to a cleaning lady and her daughter. "You're not like the others," she said, the words slipping out before she could stop them. Jasper smiled, an undisguised emotion in his eyes. "You made me want to be different." The silence that followed was comfortable, full of mutual understanding. Only the steady beeping of the monitors and Lily's now calmer breathing filled the room. In the hallway, hurried footsteps indicated the changing of the nursing shift. The city outside was beginning to wake up, the dark sky giving way to a grey dawn. A new nurse came in for the first check of the day, noted the vitals, and left silently. "She's going to be okay," Jasper commented, looking at Lily. "Kids are incredibly resilient." Lena nodded, allowing herself to believe his words. After a few moments of silence, Jasper spoke again, his voice soft in the quiet room. "You know, I never asked about her father." Lena looked at her sleeping daughter, her little face still flushed from the fever, but more serene. For a moment, she thought about deflecting the question, as she always did when the topic came up. But Jasper's presence there, his silent loyalty during that terrible day, deserved honesty. "He left me when he found out I was pregnant," she replied in a calm voice, surprisingly free of bitterness. "He never came back." Jasper nodded, not asking for more details, respecting the boundaries of her confidence. "He doesn't know what he's missing," he commented simply. "Sometimes I think it was for the best," Lena continued, her eyes still on her daughter. "I don't know if he would have been a good father, and Lily never missed what she never knew. You've done an incredible job on your own. It wasn't always easy," she admitted. "There were nights when I didn't know how we'd pay next month's rent. Moments when I doubted if I was doing enough, if I was failing her. Look at her, Lena." Jasper indicated Lily with a gentle gesture. "Do you see any sign of failure? I see a child who is loved, safe, and intelligent. That's what matters." A tear ran down Lena's face, the first she had allowed herself since the beginning of that chaotic day. Maybe it was the exhaustion, the worry finally finding an outlet, or simply the relief of seeing Lily sleeping peacefully after hours of suffering. Jasper reached his hand across the hospital bed, taking hers, their fingers intertwined naturally, without hesitation or ulterior motives. It wasn't a romantic gesture, but something deeper, a connection of souls who had found mutual understanding in the most unlikely of places. He held her hand firmly, offering what words could not express: support, respect, the silent promise that they were no longer alone. The rising sun began to filter through the curtains, painting the room with a soft golden light. Lily stirred in her bed, her eyes slowly opening, finding her mother and Jasper still holding hands beside her bed. "Mommy!" she called in a weak voice. Lena immediately moved closer, stroking her blonde curls. "I'm here, my love." "The tall man too," Lily smiled faintly, noticing Jasper. "Of course I am, princess," he replied, standing up to get closer. "I wasn't going anywhere." The doctor arrived for his morning rounds, bringing good news. The pneumonia was responding well to treatment, and if Lily continued to improve, she could go home the next day. As the doctor explained the details of the treatment, Jasper discreetly stepped away to give Lena space. He stood by the window, watching the city awaken below. His phone was vibrating incessantly in his pocket, probably Raymond, furious about his absence from the important meetings that morning. But at that moment, none of that mattered. He looked at Lena and Lily, the mother leaning over her daughter, helping her drink some water, the affection evident in every gesture. There was something that his father's money could never buy, something that the boardrooms of Hale Enterprises would never offer: genuine love, true care, the feeling of belonging to something bigger than himself. Lily's fever had brought not only fear and worry, but also a certainty. In times of crisis, people's true nature is revealed. And Jasper Hale's nature, Lena discovered that night, was made of a silent loyalty that was worth more than all the riches in the world. Lily's recovery was faster than the doctors had predicted. 3 days after leaving the hospital, the girl was already running around the small backyard, as if the pneumonia had been just a distant nightmare. Lena attributed the miraculous recovery to the top-notch medical care she could never have afforded without Jasper's intervention. He continued to visit them daily during Lily's convalescence, bringing not only books and small gifts, but also his constant, reassuring presence. Lena noticed, however, that something seemed different. Jasper checked his phone more often, and sometimes she caught him with a distant look, lost in thoughts he didn't share. On a Monday morning, 2 weeks after Lily's hospitalization, Jasper arrived at the Hale Enterprises office to find a summons on his desk: an immediate meeting with Raymond on the 50th floor. The terse tone of the message made it clear it wasn't an invitation, but an order. When he entered the presidential suite, Raymond was not alone. 2 members of the board of directors were present, sitting in a discreet corner of the room, like silent witnesses to what was about to unfold. "Close the door," Raymond ordered, without looking up from the documents he was signing. Jasper obeyed, feeling a strange calm. He knew exactly what would happen in that meeting, and surprisingly, he felt no fear. "We have a serious image problem," Raymond began, finally looking up. "Rumors about the Hale Enterprises heir wasting his time with unsuitable people." Jasper remained silent, watching his father. Raymond looked older, the lines around his eyes deeper, the tension evident in the way he held his pen. "The board is concerned," he continued, gesturing briefly to the 2 men in the corner. "Shareholders are asking if you are truly committed to the future of this company." "And what did you tell them?" Jasper asked calmly. "That it was a passing phase, a misguided social project that would soon be abandoned." Raymond stood up, walking around the desk to face his son. "But I'm starting to doubt my own answer." The silence hung heavy in the room. The board members exchanged uncomfortable glances. 3 generations, Jasper. 3 generations building a legacy, and you seem willing to throw it all away for a cleaning lady and her bastard daughter. Jasper felt his blood boil at those words, but he maintained his composure. "Your grandfather started from scratch," Raymond continued. "Your father expanded the empire. I elevated it to international levels. And you, what do you plan to do with this legacy?" "Perhaps create my own," Jasper replied simply. Raymond laughed, a dry, humorless sound. "With what money? With what connections? Everything you have, everything you are, you owe to this company, to me." Jasper held his father's gaze without flinching. "Maybe it's time to find out who I am without all of this." The board members shifted uncomfortably in their chairs. Clearly, the conversation was not following the script Raymond had planned. "This has gone on long enough," Raymond said, his voice low and controlled but laden with threat. "If you don't walk away now, you are out of the company." It wasn't the first time Raymond had made threats, but something was different now. The presence of witnesses, the definitive tone. This wasn't a bluff. It was an ultimatum. Jasper felt a strange lightness, as if a weight he had carried for years suddenly lifted. He looked directly into his father's eyes and said, without hesitation, "Then it's settled." The shock on Raymond's face was momentary, but undeniable. He had clearly expected pleading, negotiations, perhaps even a surrender, not this serene acceptance. "You don't understand what you're doing," Raymond said, quickly recovering. "You're throwing away your future." "No," Jasper replied calmly. "I'm choosing my future for the first time." He turned to leave, but Raymond stopped him with one more question. "Why? What does this woman have that is worth all this sacrifice?" Jasper paused at the door, considering the question for a moment. She showed me there's a life beyond these walls. A life where I can be more than just your heir. With that, he left, closing the door softly behind him. The following weeks were a period of adjustment and discovery. Jasper left the luxurious apartment he had occupied since college and moved into a simple but comfortable loft downtown. He sold 2 of his 3 imported cars, keeping only the Audi that Lily affectionately called the tall man's car. Surprisingly, the transition to a simpler life wasn't as difficult as he had imagined. For the first time in years, he felt light, as if he had left behind not just the luxury, but mainly the crushing expectations that came with it. His visits to Lena's house continued, though less frequently in the first few weeks. He was busy reorganizing his life, consulting lawyers about his financial situation, researching possibilities. When he did show up, however, Lena noticed something different in his eyes. A fire that wasn't there before, a glint of determination and purpose. He didn't immediately tell her about his break with Raymond and the company. He didn't want Lena to feel responsible for his decision. Instead, they talked about Lily, about books, about the small happenings of daily life. Jasper discovered he enjoyed cooking, something he had never done before, always surrounded by private chefs, and started bringing simple dishes he prepared to share with them. A month after the confrontation with Raymond, on a golden late autumn afternoon, Jasper arrived at Lena's house with a leather folder under his arm and a different smile on his face. Lily was at school, and Lena had taken the day off to wash curtains and do a deep clean of the house. "You seem different," she commented, pouring him a cup of tea in the newly cleaned kitchen that smelled of lemon and detergent. "I feel different," he admitted, placing the folder on the table. "How good different or bad different?" "Definitely good." Lena sat across from him, intrigued. Jasper seemed almost vibrant, as if he could barely contain the energy pulsing within him. "There's something I need to tell you," he began. "Something that happened a few weeks ago, but I wanted to wait until I was sure." "You're scaring me, Jasper," he smiled reassuringly. "It's nothing bad. Quite the opposite." Lena waited patiently as he gathered his thoughts. "I left my father's company," he said finally. "Actually, I was practically kicked out. Raymond gave me an ultimatum. Either I stay away from you and Lily, or I was out." Lena turned pale. "Oh, Jasper." "Because of us." "No," he replied firmly, reaching for her hand across the table. "Because of me, for who I want to be, for what I want to do with my life." "But your position, your future." "It wasn't my future, Lena. It was the future Raymond planned for me since I was 14. She watched him intently, searching for signs of regret or doubt on his face, but found none. "So what now?" she asked finally. Jasper opened the folder he had brought, revealing papers, spreadsheets, and some sketches. "For the last few years, I managed the social responsibility division of Hale Enterprises," he explained. "It was the least valued sector of the company, practically a legal obligation for Raymond. But for me, it was the only part of the job that truly mattered." As he spoke, his eyes gained an intense glow, his hands gesturing enthusiastically as he pointed to the documents. "I met incredible people in that sector, educators, environmentalists, social entrepreneurs. People who make a real difference, not just to pad annual reports." Lena smiled, infected by his enthusiasm. "And what do you plan to do?" "I'm starting my own company," he answered, his voice firm and decisive. "A social impact consultancy that helps companies implement sustainable practices and genuine community programs. Not just social marketing, but real change." He turned one of the pages, showing a simple but elegant logo, Horizon Impact. "I have enough of my own savings to start. Some of the contacts I've made over the years have already shown interest. It's a modest start, but with potential for growth." Lena watched, fascinated by the transformation before her eyes. It wasn't just a business plan, it was a declaration of independence. "You gave me courage, Lena," he said suddenly, holding her hands in his. "The courage to be who I always wanted to be. I spent years just obeying. Now I can do what's mine." The sincerity in those words was almost palpable. Lena felt her eyes well up. moved not only by what he was saying but by the journey she had witnessed. From the displaced heir at the gala to this confident, determined man before her. "You always had that courage inside you," she replied softly. "You just needed to find it." Jasper smiled, squeezing her hands lightly before letting go to return to the documents. "There's one more thing," he said, with a slight nervousness in his voice. "The company will need an executive assistant, someone organized, efficient, with administrative skills and, above all, unwavering integrity." He looked at her hopefully. "I'd like it to be you, Lena." She blinked, surprised. "Me? But I'm just a cleaner." "I have no office experience, no qualifications. You manage your home, take care of Lily, work 2 jobs, and still find time to read and study. That shows more organization and determination than most executives I know," he argued. "Besides, you have something you don't learn in college. Character." Lena bit her lip, hesitant. "What about Lily?" "My hours at the school are perfect for being with her after class." "I thought of that too," Jasper smiled. "The office is 10 minutes from Westfield. We can adjust your schedule so you're free when Lily gets out of school. And for longer days, we can create a space for her at the office with books, educational games. It'll be a family business after all." The idea of leaving her cleaning job, of working in a different environment, of being able to use her mind in other ways, it was all as tempting as it was frightening for Lena. "What if I'm not capable?" she asked, voicing her biggest fear. "You're more capable than you imagine," Jasper replied with conviction. "But if you decide it's not for you, you can always go back to the school. There's no pressure, Lena. It's an invitation, not an obligation." She looked at the documents spread across the table, Jasper's dream taking shape before her eyes. A dream he was inviting her to be a part of, not as charity, but as a partner. "Yeah, when would I start?" she asked finally, a cautious smile forming on her lips. Jasper's face lit up. "In 2 weeks, the space is being prepared, small but functional." "I need to think," she said, "talk to Lily, understand how this would affect our routine." "Of course," he nodded, understanding. "Take all the time you need." Lena studied the man before her, so different from the one who had crossed the ballroom to help her months ago. Lighter, more authentic, more alive. Something in her resonated with that transformation, as if his courage awakened her own. As they talked about the details of the new venture, the afternoon sun created golden patterns on the simple kitchen table. Outside, the world kept spinning. Raymond in his office in the high-rise, Hale Enterprises with its profits and losses, the luxury and power Jasper had left behind. But here, in this kitchen that smelled of lemon and possibilities, something new was beginning to blossom. Not just a company with a social purpose, but a life built on conscious choices and true courage. The choice was made, and for the first time, it was truly hers. Spring had arrived in its full glory when Horizon Impact completed its first 6 months. The office, initially a modest space with just 3 rooms in a mid-sized commercial building, now occupied the entire floor. It wasn't luxurious. The white walls were decorated with photographs of social projects. The furniture was simple but functional. And the plants Lena cared for daily brought life to the space, but it had personality and purpose. The first few months were a period of intense learning. Lena, who had never worked in a corporate environment, absorbed every new piece of information like a sponge. She learned to use scheduling systems, organize meetings, and prepare presentations. Her evenings were dedicated to online courses in administration and IT, while Lily slept. Her days were filled with the organically growing work, as new clients discovered the small consultancy with its genuine approach. Jasper kept his promise. Lena's schedule was flexible enough for her to pick up Lily from school every day. And when unexpected meetings came up, a small corner in the office, with a children's bookshelf, a drawing table, and a comfortable sofa, accommodated the girl who quickly became the company's unofficial mascot. "Lena, we got the Meridian Tech contract," Jasper announced one Thursday afternoon, walking into her office with a wide smile. "They want to implement the full social responsibility program across all 5 branches." Lena smiled, genuinely happy. It wasn't just their biggest client to date, it was validation that they were on the right path. "Should we celebrate?" she suggested, pointing to Lily, who was concentrating on a drawing at her little table. "Pizza in the park?" Jasper asked, already knowing the answer. It was a ritual they had established for celebrations. Pizza in the park near the office, where Lily could play on the playground while the adults talked about achievements and future plans. What had started as a team of 3, Jasper, Lena, and a young, recently graduated social responsibility expert, now numbered 7. Each person had been carefully selected not only for their technical competence, but for sharing the vision that business could be a tool for social transformation. The first noticeable change was in Lena's wardrobe. Not that Jasper had demanded it, he made a point of maintaining a casual work environment, but she herself felt the need to adapt to her new position. She replaced her worn-out jeans with simple dress pants, her t-shirts with more appropriate blouses. They weren't expensive clothes, but they were new, bought with her own salary, chosen with the care of someone learning to value herself. The second change was the apartment. After 3 months at the company, with a stable and significantly higher salary than her previous income as a cleaner, Lena was able to rent a better apartment, still modest, but in a quieter neighborhood, with 2 bedrooms and no leaks in the ceiling. The move was a community event, with the entire Horizon team helping to carry boxes and assemble furniture on a sunny Saturday that ended with an impromptu barbecue on the small balcony. The third and most important change, however, was invisible to the eye, the piece that had finally found its place in Lena and Lily's life. On a Monday morning, Lena arrived at the office to find Jasper already hunched over spreadsheets, a cooling cup of coffee beside him. He looked up as she entered, smiling automatically. "Good morning. Sleep well?" "Like a rock," she replied, placing her bag on her desk. "I didn't even hear the alarm go off." It was a simple, almost banal answer, but it carried a meaning that only Jasper would fully understand. Lena, who for years had woken up several times a night worrying about bills to pay, Lily's health, and the uncertainty of the future, now slept peacefully. The new daily routine brought routines that once seemed like unattainable luxuries, regular doctor's appointments for Lily, without relying on the overwhelmed public system, a small savings account that grew each month, the ability to buy a new book without having to count coins, weekends without the exhaustion of extra jobs to supplement her income. Small things that, when added up, made all the difference. The company grew slowly, but on solid foundations. Jasper refused proposals that contradicted his principles, even when they were financially attractive. "Our greatest asset is our credibility," he would explain in team meetings. "We can't sell social responsibility to companies that just want an ethical facade." This stance, though it limited rapid growth, attracted clients genuinely interested in change. Within 6 months, Horizon Impact had already implemented recycling programs in 3 mid-sized companies, created a scholarship project with a multinational corporation, and was developing an ambitious sustainability plan for a hotel chain. Lily blossomed in this new environment. The school remained the same. Jasper made sure she kept her scholarship, now not out of financial need but for educational continuity. But her demeanor changed completely. The shy girl who used to hide behind her mother now actively participated in school activities, made friends easily, and was no longer afraid to have classmates over to play at her house. "Look, Mommy," she exclaimed one afternoon, running to show her first semester report card. Excellent grades in all subjects, and a special comment from her teacher about her remarkable social and emotional development. Lena hugged her daughter with pride, exchanging a meaningful look with Jasper, who was watching the scene from the doorway. They both knew that Lily's academic success reflected something bigger, the emotional security that now permeated her life. Jasper's visits to their home continued, though now with a different rhythm. They were no longer an escape from his corporate life, but a natural extension of days shared at the office. Dinners on Tuesdays, movies on Saturday afternoons, short weekend trips to nearby towns, moments that built a comfortable routine without pressure or expectations. On one of those quiet evenings, after Lily had fallen asleep, Lena found Jasper on the balcony of the new apartment, watching the city lights. "A penny for your thoughts," she said, offering him a cup of tea. "I was just thinking about how life comes full circle," he replied, accepting the drink. "A year ago, I was the heir to Hale Enterprises, living in an apartment that took up an entire floor, with 3 cars in the garage and a schedule packed with meaningless appointments." Lena sat in the chair beside him, waiting for him to continue. "Today I have a small company, a simple loft, a single car, and I work twice as many hours," he smiled, "and I've never been happier." The simplicity of that statement echoed Lena's own journey. From constant fear to quiet security, from daily survival to future planning, from permanent exhaustion to renewed energy. There was no luxury in their lives, no dinners at Michelin-starred restaurants, no designer clothes, no international travel, but there was something infinitely more valuable: dignity, respect, a shared purpose, and above all, the absence of suffering. When Lena closed her eyes at night, lying in her simple but comfortable bed, listening to Lily's quiet breathing in the next room, she felt a deep gratitude, not just for the material comfort, which was still modest by many standards, but for the inner peace she had finally found. Her peace built not by grand dramatic gestures, but by the consistent daily life that, day after day, healed old wounds and built new possibilities. Spring had given way to summer, and Horizon Impact's first anniversary was approaching. What had started as a small office with 3 people now occupied an entire floor of a downtown commercial building, with a dedicated team of 12 employees. The growth wasn't explosive, but steady and sustainable, exactly as Jasper had planned. On the walls of the main office, photos documented the company's evolution. The small room where it all began, the first team gathered around a makeshift table, the celebration of their first major contract, Jasper and Lena receiving a social entrepreneurship award at a local ceremony. Small milestones on a journey that had defied all expectations, especially those of Raymond Cole. On a particularly hot Sunday in July, Lena organized a lunch at her house to celebrate the company's anniversary in advance. It was no longer the small townhouse where Jasper had first met her, but a comfortable house in the suburbs, with a spacious yard where Lily could run freely. They had moved 2 months earlier, when Lena finally realized her dream of owning her own place, not rented but bought with her own money, the fruit of her work and the savings she had carefully built over the last year. The house, though simple, had character. Colorful flower pots adorned the windows, a small vegetable garden in the yard provided fresh herbs for the kitchen, and the interior was decorated with family photos and mementos from their occasional short trips. It was a home in the truest sense of the word, not just a place to live, but a refuge where memories were built daily. Jasper arrived early, as always, bringing a bottle of wine for the adults and an educational board game for Lily. He found Lena in the kitchen, finishing an orange cake whose fragrance filled the entire house. She was different from the woman he had met at that gala, not just in appearance, but mainly in her posture, in the quiet confidence she radiated. "If I need a hand," he offered, putting the wine in the refrigerator. "Can you make the lemonade?" she asked, pointing to the lemons on the counter. "Lily's in the yard planting the flowers you brought yesterday." "Another addition to her garden," Jasper smiled, rolling up his shirt sleeves. "She's determined to turn that corner into a butterfly paradise," her words. She researched all the plants that attract pollinators. As they worked side by side in the spacious kitchen, they discussed the details of the new project Horizon had won, a professional training program for youth from disadvantaged communities, funded by a consortium of tech companies. "The funding is secured for 3 years, Jasper commented, squeezing the lemons. "Enough time to establish a solid foundation and show results that justify its continuation. The kids are going to love the curriculum we developed," Lena replied, taking the cake out of the oven, "especially the hands-on workshops with professionals from each field. Your insight about including individual mentorship made all the difference in the proposal," he noted. "That story you told about how different it would have been if you'd had someone to guide you when you were younger, it really touched the evaluation committee." Lena smiled, appreciating the recognition. "Life experience is also expertise, isn't it?" That's how it worked between them, a natural partnership where work and personal life blended without conflict. Lena was no longer just an assistant, but the company's administrative director, responsible for all operational logistics, while Jasper handled external relations and project development. After finishing the lunch preparations, they both went out to the yard, where Lily, now 6 years old, was absorbed in planting sunflower seeds along the small fence that bordered the garden. "A tall man," she exclaimed upon seeing Jasper, running to hug him with her hands still dirty with soil. "Be careful with his clothes, Lily," Lena gently warned. "It's okay," Jasper smiled, crouching to receive the girl's hug. "So, are these seeds going to grow into giant flowers like you showed me in the book?" "Yes." "They're going to be bigger than my head," Lily replied enthusiastically. "You'll see when you get back from your trip." Jasper exchanged a quick glance with Lena. He was leaving the following week for an international conference on social impact businesses, his first trip abroad since founding Horizon. It would only be 2 weeks, but for people who saw each other almost every day, it felt like an eternity. "I'll bring you pictures from all the places," he promised the girl, "and that architecture book we saw online." "And will you call me every day?" Lily asked, her blue eyes suddenly serious. "Whenever the time zones allow," he assured her, tapping the tip of her nose with his finger, a loving gesture that had become part of their private communication. Lily smiled, satisfied, and returned to her seeds. Jasper and Lena sat on the small porch overlooking the yard, watching the child in her own private world of discovery. "So she's grown so much this past year," Jasper commented, watching how Lily now read the instructions on the seed packet by herself, focused on doing everything right. "Not just in height," Lena agreed. "Did you see her teacher's report? She's 2 years ahead in reading and math. You know what impresses me the most?" he continued after a moment. "Her confidence. The way she expresses herself, how she defends her ideas, how she's not afraid to try new things." "She learned that from you," Lena replied, watching her daughter. "Before you showed up, she was so shy, so cautious about everything. She was even afraid to laugh out loud, you know. As if taking up space, making noise, was a luxury she couldn't afford. She always had that strength inside her. She just needed the security to show it. Like all of us," Lena added softly. A comfortable silence settled between them, the kind that only exists between people who don't feel the need to fill every moment with words. The summer sun filtered through the leaves of the old apple tree in the corner of the yard, creating dancing patterns on the ground. "Have you ever thought about how different everything would be if you hadn't gone to that party?" Lena asked suddenly. Jasper reflected for a moment. "I'd probably still be at Hale Enterprises, following Raymond's orders, living a life that wasn't really mine. And we'd still be in that little townhouse, counting coins to make it to the end of the month. Or maybe our paths would have crossed in another way," Jasper suggested. "I like to think some people are destined to meet, regardless of the circumstances." Lena smiled at the idea. "Destiny? That doesn't sound like something a pragmatic businessman would say." "You've changed me more than you know," he replied, his gaze returning to Lily, who was now carefully watering the newly planted seeds. "You two taught me to see beyond the numbers and spreadsheets." It was true. The man who had lived among multi-million-dollar contracts and corporate strategies had discovered a different kind of wealth, one that came from sincere conversations, books read together, small victories celebrated, and coffee shared on quiet mornings. "And you taught us that dreaming isn't a luxury reserved for a privileged few," she returned. Jasper's transformation was as remarkable as that of Lena and Lily. The reluctant heir he had met, always tense under the weight of others' expectations, had given way to a man sure of his purpose. He was still meticulous in business, brilliant in his strategies, but now there was a lightness to him, an authenticity that was previously absent. Jasper reached out and lightly touched Lena's arm, a simple gesture laden with meaning. "You've been the best friend I've ever had," he said softly. "The only person I could be honest with." Lena felt a lump in her throat at his words. Her whole life, she had been defined by others, the girl who got pregnant young, the single mother, the cleaning lady, always seen through the lens of her circumstances, rarely for who she truly was. You never treated me as lespa, she replied, emotion showing in her voice. Oh, that to me is more than anything. It was true. From their very first meeting, even when she was kneeling, picking up shards of broken glasses, Jasper had treated her as an equal, not with condescension, not with pity, but with genuine respect. Impulsively, Lena leaned in and hugged him, and it wasn't a romantic hug. There wasn't that tension or expectation that accompanies gestures between potential lovers. It was something different, deeper perhaps, a mutual recognition of souls who, against all odds, had found true understanding in each other. When they pulled apart, they were both smiling, comfortable with a closeness that transcended conventional definitions. "Am my giant best friend?" Lily suddenly exclaimed, running towards them with an empty watering can. "I need more water for my seeds." Jasper laughed, getting up to help her. "Let's go get some then. Your plants need to grow up strong like you." Lena watched the two of them walk together towards the garden faucet, the bouncing blonde girl and the tall man who adjusted his steps to match hers. There was a natural sync between them, a complicity that had developed organically over time. The guests began to arrive shortly after. The Horizon team, some neighbors, the few friends Lena had made in this new phase of her life. It was an eclectic group, united by the genuine affection they felt for this small, unconventional family. The lunch unfolded amidst lively conversations and laughter. The food was simple but plentiful. Colorful salads, grilled meats from the small barbecue in the yard, Lena's orange cake that everyone praised. There was no luxury or ostentation, just the genuine pleasure of people enjoying each other's company. Among the conversations, stories of Horizon's early days occasionally came up. The computer that always froze, the temperamental printer, the time Lily spilled juice on the only printed contract moments before an important meeting. Memories that now drew laughter, but at the time had been small dramas in the struggle to establish the company. While the adults chatted at the table in the yard, Lily organized her neighborhood friends into an elaborate treasure hunt, with clues hidden all over the property. Jasper was invited to participate as a special consultant when the kids got really lost. The afternoon wore on slowly, with that golden quality that only summer days possess. The guests gradually departed until only Jasper remained, helping to tidy up the kitchen while Lily took a bath to wash off the dirt accumulated during her day of play. Lily appeared at the kitchen door, hair wet and wearing star-patterned pajamas, holding a book. "Bedtime story?" she asked, looking hopefully at Jasper. "Of course, Princess." "Which one did you choose today?" "The one about the bear who built houses for other animals," she replied, already pulling him by the hand towards her room. Lena finished tidying the kitchen, listening in the distance to Jasper's voice-changing tone to play each character in the story, drawing delighted giggles from Lily. It was a sound she never tired of hearing, that simple harmony that had established itself among the three of them, as natural as if it had always existed. When Jasper came out of the room about 20 minutes later, he found Lena on the back porch, watching the stars begin to dot the darkening sky. "Is she asleep?" she asked, offering him a cup of tea. "In the middle of the story," he smiled, accepting the drink. "I think all that activity in the garden wore her out." They sat side by side in the wicker chairs, enjoying the quiet of the summer night. The sounds of the neighborhood had subsided, replaced by the chirping of crickets and the occasional distant bark of a dog. "Do you know what Lily told me today before she fell asleep?" Jasper commented after a few moments of silence. "What?" "That when she grows up, she wants to build a company like ours, to help people." Lena smiled, moved. "She has a good example." "She has the best example," Jasper corrected, looking directly at Lena. "And you showed her it's possible to rebuild your life as many times as necessary without losing your dignity or kindness." "We showed her," Lena replied. "Me, you, everyone who is now a part of our life." "Our life," Jasper repeated, savoring the words. "So, Sammy, who would have thought an accident with champagne glasses would lead us here?" Lena looked at the man beside her, no longer the uncomfortable heir in expensive clothes, but a confident entrepreneur with a clear purpose in his eyes, a person who had entered her life in the most unexpected way and was now an inseparable part of it. Lily called him my giant best friend, and that's exactly what he had become for both of them. A friend in the deepest, truest sense of the word. Not a savior who had rescued them from poverty, not a condescending benefactor, not a passing romantic interest. Looking at the house that was now her home, with flowers in the windows, the smell of cake still lingering in the kitchen, Lily's drawings scattered on the fridge, Lena felt a serene certainty settle in her heart. He didn't save our lives, she thought, watching Jasper's profile against the starry sky. He walked into them. And he stayed. And therein lay the true beauty of this unlikely story. Three people who, alone, carried wounds and incompleteness, but together had found something that transcended conventional definitions. They weren't a traditional family. They weren't lovers. They weren't just friends. They were kindred spirits, companions on a journey who, against all social, economic, and cultural odds, had found in their differences not barriers, but complements. And on that warm summer night, under a sky full of stars, that seemed more than enough. It seemed, in fact, extraordinary. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next ones.